I'm here with David O, a former city council member who's launched his campaign to be the next mayor of Philadelphia. Going to ask a few questions and get into his campaign strategies and everything like that. So, Mr. David O, you can go ahead and introduce yourself to the people, and then we'll get into the first question.
All right, thank you. Well, my name's David O. I'm a former council member, served for 11 years, and then I resigned on February the 13th because I want to run for mayor. There's a lot of things I tried to do in city council, and some of it worked, but a lot of things, my bills weren't voted down, my resolutions were voted down, and I think they are very much what people want, very common sense. People really mystified why they were defeated. However, as mayor, those are the things that I can do. The first issue, of course, is gun violence, horrific murders, and just the frustration people have when they feel like nothing is being done about it. The only thing people are left with is that because the government doesn't care. That's the only thing people are left with. And that coincides with they don't care about our schools, because we have inferior schools. They don't care about our libraries. We have inferior libraries. They don't care about our rec centers and our community centers, because those are no good. If we want to fix them, we got to pay a soda tax, like we're paying for it. So it coincides with the fact that they're being pushed out of their communities, that their property taxes are obviously incorrect and overly high. There are so many things that tell people in this city that government is your enemy, not your friend. Government is your boss, not your servant, and these are the reforms that I will put in. The issue is, a lot of people talk about reforms, but who's actually tried to do the reforms? Well, I have. I have fought City Hall. I've fought in City Council. I've tried to reform institutions like Department of Human Services. They do good work, but they also do a lot of evil. They're taking innocent children away from their families and communities, separating them, putting them up for foster care, where many times they are subject to physical and sexual abuse, and that is not something that we can condone or tolerate. So that is the problem that we have when government is measuring how someone else is doing but doesn't measure themselves. For example, they have all kind of standards for charter schools, but they don't measure their own public schools. They measure someone's family, even for the most minor thing that happens to their child, and they take the child out the house, but they don't measure other things, right? So there's a very unequal discrimination in this city, not just by race or gender or religion, but just in general, like what zip code you live in. So this is all unconstitutional and illegal. And if we don't turn things around, this city is going to get worse and worse. The first thing is the violence. The next thing is the lack of economic opportunity, which, quite frankly, people need jobs. They need opportunity. They want to be somebody, and they want to know that their children will have a better future, or else why be in this city? So we need a new mayor, and I'm going to step up to try to do that.
Great. Now, let's talk about the violence, because like I said, you said that's the main big thing. That's what we hear a lot of the candidates talking about, violence, kids not being safe, going to school. We just had a teenager last week that was killed on his way to school. What would be on day one? Because I hear a lot of candidates saying, day one. What would day one look like for you as the new mayor of Philadelphia?
For day one, for me, I'll have a new police commissioner. A police commissioner who agrees with what I'm trying to do. And I don't have anything against our current police commissioner, but unfortunately, she was a police commissioner for the last mayor, and I disagree a lot with him. So I have a new police commissioner. The police commissioner has to be someone that the people respect and that the officers respect, because they're going to have to get their act together. I know there's been police feel demoralized, they feel confused, they feel depressed. Well, that's going to end. You got a new mayor, you got a new police commissioner. When that 911 call comes in, when people call, they will get an immediate response, and out comes a police car, a uniformed officer to your aid at your service. And that's a big change. It's got to be at your service, polite, courteous, intelligent, policing at your service. We know you're the good guy. We are here to help you with the bad guy. We're not making any assumptions that is improper. The resident is the one who is calling. On day one, we have to send a message to people who have come into our city or are in our city murdering, hunting, violating, obstructing, because when we don't send a message to them that these are not the same old days, then that's our fault. Our fault that we did not warn them, we did not tell them. So the first thing are the most obvious things. When vehicles come riding into our town, like is the Wild Wild West, they shall be immediately stopped. Those vehicles will be confiscated. All traffic laws will be enforced, and that will be well publicized. I'll use drones to monitor those vehicles, to inform the police where to set up the roadblocks. We will trap those vehicles. We will then confiscate those vehicles. They will have a chance to pay their fines, all those type of things. But, they will be stored at the owner's expense, and then they will be destroyed. That message is a good message because it tells all those people out there planning next month to rally and come roaring into Philadelphia not to do it. Same thing with Kensington Avenue. There should be no such thing as Kensington Avenue. Kensington Avenue only exists because people who are doing drugs out in Chester County or Camden County believe that they can come to Philadelphia and just live free on the street. They can defecate on people's property, they can prostitute out in the open, buy their drugs in the open, come up with the cash every day, $140 a day, every day, doing what they do, and that the police will turn a blind eye. Now, the people who suffer, not only them, but also the drug dealers who end up killing each other over all that money, end up going to jail. That is a terrible thing to do. And then the residents who are trapped there can't have a quality of life in the children. So the most humane thing to do is to enforce the law evenly. And then because of that, we will now have an ability to deal with our portion of those in need. We cannot have people from all over this region come to Philadelphia and we are now going to try to treat them. We cannot. They are leaving money on the table, support loved ones back home who oftentimes, are wondering what happened to their loved ones. It is better for them to not come to Philadelphia for their own sakes and for our sakes. So yeah, enforcing the law and then immediately, ensuring that the messages sent don't come here, and then the trash trucks will go up and pick up all that dumped the trash and tow all those illegally towed vehicles, and we will monitor it so that people don't come back. We don't want open air drug dealers. We don't want trash being dumped. The immediate message that sends is that we care about the people who live in this community. We care about the people who are afflicted. We're going to give them mental health. We're going to give them detox. We're going to help them as much as we can, but they cannot come into our city and trap the residents to a life of suffering, and they should not be here suffering because of our city policies.
Sounds like a great day one. So I noticed that you said something about cars being stopped. How do you feel about the driving equality bill that Councilmember Isaiah Thomas put in, where police are forbidden from making minor traffic stops?
So I did vote against that, and I'll explain why. I understand the purpose of it. The problem to me is this. The driving equality bill has a good purpose. We don't want to have a disproportionate number of people stop simply because they're black and driving. But what the bill focuses on is violations. Those aren't fake violations, those are real violations. If a police officer is going to make up a false reason why they're stopping a car, that's illegal. And my thing is this, you cannot, as an officer, just fabricate someone's taillight is out. Or if someone is told their taillight is out, they need to receive that in writing. They need the police officer's badge number and everything, and they need to make a phone call. A supervisor will be there. When they see that there's nothing wrong with that taillight, that officer will be disciplined. That's the way it works. There is no such thing as excusing a police officer who's going to lie. Maybe they think it's for a good reason. There is no good reason. That's why I'm against any violation by the police, such as stop and frisk. You cannot come upon a person Now, there's a legal level of stop and frisk, but you have to have all those elements. There has to be a crime that was committed. You have to receive the information. The person has to match the description, but most importantly, there has to be information that that person is armed and dangerous. Then you can do what's called a Terry stop. But what cities and mayors and police commissioners have done is they've told their police to go into the neighborhood. Look, they're not going to white neighborhoods. They're going to black neighborhoods, right? Look at people because they're what? Young black male? And just stop them and start feeling their bodies. I'm sorry, you can't do that. It's illegal. It's unconstitutional. So anything unconstitutional, the police cannot do, because the police will be alienating the very people they serve. And why would I infect, as mayor, my police officers that we've trained? Why would we infect them with doing dishonest, illegal things as police officers? That is a slippery slope to doing more problems. So the first thing is, the only time they're going to stop vehicles, and it doesn't matter who's driving the vehicle, it doesn't matter who they are, but if the vehicle does something that is improper, is a violation of the traffic law, if it is reckless or dangerous, they will stop the vehicle. Now, it doesn't mean the person gets arrested. It means the vehicle is stopped and there's a discussion. What happened? Oh, I sneezed, I got allergy, whatever it is. Okay, please be careful. Okay, there you go. But if the vehicle is violating in certain ways that are not just simply, hey, listen, be alert, then that becomes a matter of, your vehicle, for example, if it is in violation of the state code, that's just an indicator. I've been stopped. Listen, we all get busy. Police officer stops me. Did you notice that your something is expired? Oh, I didn't know. Thanks for letting me know. Okay, listen, I'm gonna let you go. Take care of it. Thank you. We shouldn't have those interactions. Should not be conflicts that escalate into someone getting shot. That should never happen. Right. And so what my point is when you have officers who are not going to enforce traffic code violations, many times the individual, they just simply don't know. But roll out into Delaware County or Chester County and you didn't know, you'll get a completely different experience out there. And so that's what I would say. Follow the law, officers and citizens. You give people warning, let them get their affairs in order. But, as with all things, there are many vehicles, they may have things wrong with them, but they're not obvious. The vehicles that have something obviously wrong, just let the driver be alert to complying with the rules, and that should be the end of it. If an officer stopping a vehicle falsely, that has to be reported and that has to be dealt with. And as mayor, I will deal with that. I will not have that.
Great. Now, I'm going to go back to the stop and frisk thing because,
Yeah.
I've been very vocal about
Yes.
the ski mask situation
Yes.
where, we have a lot of someone was just killed today in a barbershop,
Yes.
and I can guarantee that the killer had a ski mask on.
Yes.
So how do you feel about ski masks being worn in the public and stores? Is there anything that you can do as mayor to prevent people from walking around wearing ski masks?
Yeah, so it's tricky because there's different jurisdictions. Like one city does an anti-ski mask law and the court said it's okay. And another city does an anti-ski mask law and the court says it's illegal, right? So looking at all of this, what appears to me the thing that I can do is you can make a prohibition on wearing ski masks, but it has to be defined and limited. What that means is not simply ski masks, it's masks, including ski masks, number one. Number two, it has to be in relation to a specific issue, like we have all this violent crime, things like that, and there has to be exceptions. So for example, on Halloween, you can wear masks. If you're going to a party, you can wear a mask. For example, in July, at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, you cannot be wearing a mask. Right. That's kind of like so now, can the mayor do that? Not without authorization, because mayors execute. That means I can tell the police what to do. I can tell city workers what to do, but I can't make laws. So city council will have to make the law, or I have to go to state legislature and they will make a law that in the city of the first class, which is only Philadelphia, that the mayor has the power on a temporary basis or an emergency basis related to crime, for example, to issue a no mask executive order and to enforce that for a period of time. And they'll come up with a ticket, a citation, things like that, and then we're going to have people to enforce it. But we have to send a message to people that you've been wearing these ski masks. The pandemic's pretty much over, and the ski mask is not something that protects you from the pandemic. It's not like a K95 mask,
right.
And therefore we're prohibiting this. And if you are wearing a ski mask, you will be stopped and you'll be cited, and in that portion of time, the ski mask will be confiscated.
Now, when you say stopped and cited, because my thing is, I believe, if you got a ski mask on in the middle of the day, like, right, you should be stopped and frisked. I think the police should have the right to pull you over, stop you, and say, hey, wait, come here, what's going on? Do you agree with that or no?
No, and I'll tell you why. So the law is pretty clear about when the police can stop you and when they can frisk you. So what happens is, if the police see that you have a ski mask, like you're wearing one, you can carry it with you in your hand or something, but if you put it on, that's the violation, right? So the police say, hey, we have a ordinance or the executive order, you can't wear a ski mask at this time. Person refused to take it off. Okay, now you get cited. You get a citation for $100, and okay, where do we send this ticket to? Oh, I'm not cooperating. Okay, that takes it to another level, because if you're not going to tell us where to send a ticket, we're going to have to find out who you are. Now you're getting brought in, right? So when we bring you in, we have to inventory you. It's the inventory that's legal. But out there you can't just say, hey, you're wearing a ski mask, I'm going to pat you down, because Ohio versus Terry, which is a stop and frisk law, says you cannot frisk someone if you don't have a reasonable articulable suspicion that they are armed and dangerous. You're not necessarily armed and dangerous because you're wearing a ski mask. However, if you're not going to cooperate and we have to bring you to police station, when they put you in a cell, they're going to inventory everything on your body. So if you happen to now, being inventoried, have a weapon or have illegal drugs or anything like that, now you have charges brought against you, and that's the legal way it would be done.
Okay. Another big topic is, school violence with the kids. We heard a lot of, candidates talking about putting more police in schools, or have, parents come to the schools, more NTAs. What do you think can be done or should be done to make sure that the kids feel safe going to school, and the kids are safe going and coming from school? Do we need more police in the school? Do we need more parents to get involved, more NTAs? What do you think would be the suggestion for that?
So what the school can do, school police are different from city police. First of all, in the school they don't have weapons. And their job is to really deal with the faculty, the administration, and the students. So they have a different focus, and most of the times, they're trying to de-escalate. I do believe that we need more school police inside and outside, on the way to school, in the school, after school. But they have to be coordinated, because right now they're not coordinated with the transit police, and they're not coordinated with the Philadelphia police. So because they are unarmed, what they need is they need a relationship with officers that are armed, because nowadays our kids are getting shot. And people know school police don't have guns, right. So that becomes a problem. The school police were called upon to, for example, go to the subway systems and things like that, but they're not equipped for that. They're not armed again. So that's transit police. But working transit police, when the kids, students are using public transportation, bus, train, Philadelphia police, whenever there's a problem, the school police can certainly escort and maintain and watch. The next problem is the school's policy, because the school policy is right now in many schools that when a student beats down another student, I don't mean just verbally, I mean physically, that student is not removed from the school. And so now the victim, usually a vulnerable student, looks forward to coming to school every day to be harassed and beaten, and they don't want to start telling the teacher, they want to tell the principal, because they're just going to get more of a beat down. And even when it happens right in front of the teacher, that student is not removed. Now, whatever problem that student has, they're not discouraged from doing this. So what I would do is, we have to understand that student's got some issues, but we're going to deal with that student not in the classroom, giving a beat down to other students. So that's one of the first things. The second thing is adults in the school do not want to put hands on. I'm not saying they should put hands on, but in some cases, like when a student is attacking another student, the teachers just stand there. The reason they don't want to put hands on is when they put their hands on a student, they're now subject to an investigation by the Department of Human Services. And teachers have been removed from the classroom for like 6 months awaiting the decision of DHS, like what's going to happen. It's called the rubber room. The teachers and administrators are put in the rubber room. So in some examples, like when a student they get into a fight and a teacher breaks it up, and the student says, I got a black and blue mark because the teacher grabbed me, grabbed my wrist, grabbed my shoulder. Department of Human Services just slots that for a child abuse investigation. And so the teachers, they don't want to touch the children. By the way, if you're not guilty of anything, but DHS starts a report, it stays on your record after the incident, even if you've not done anything wrong. So those are some of the reforms that has to happen in the DHS side of things, the school side of things, the school police side of things, because kids can't learn if they feel, the anxiety of going to school with violence, being in a school with violence, after school with violence. Once we have made the school safe, the next thing is to show them that they're going to get a good quality education that interests them. So we have the basics for them in a clean environment that is no different than any other school in this city. Because right now the kids know that they're going to a school that is inferior to other kids' school, and they feel this is another sign that this city does not care about them or their future. The fact that they have to deal with all this violence, the fact they have to deal with all the trash, and quite frankly, the quality of, for example, school lunch. See, if it were me, I would divide the city into 5 zones, and I would let people elect a school board member to represent particularly what is of interest to the parents and residents of that zone. So, for example, lunch. Where does lunch come from? I don't know about every school, but the last I knew, there's a contract, and basically the school purchases these lunch, and most of it ends up in the trash. Why don't we have those schools in that zone contract with neighborhood businesses? The food will be fresher, it won't be more expensive, it'll help the economy, it'll tie in local businesses to our schools. And for example, like right now we're in Ramadan, and so we have people fasting, but also outside of that, there's dietary accommodations we could make, halal, for example. We have kosher food. I mean, we can make food accommodations, cultural accommodations, religious accommodations, which shows that the students that we are thinking about them and their parents and their communities. And those are things I think we could do that would really improve things, so that the kids could now really look forward to school. School should be a fantastic place, especially for kids who are poor. They don't have a lot of things in their home. Why not have amazing games? Why not have musical instruments? Why not have fantastic science and arts and creative things in the school? Well, we can. The fact that we don't is the problem, but no one knows what the school budget is. No one has ever kind of been, I'm a city council person, I don't know what their budget is, because it's all opaque. But as mayor, I will find out, and we will make sure that the things we need will be obtained, and that'll be on day one. Like I said, I might not finish this, but the very act of beginning to create equity, equality, and the opportunities for every student that has been denied that in this city, that will tell them that there's something different happening.
Last question.
Yes.
Safe injection sites. How do you feel about safe injection sites? Do you think we should have them in Philadelphia? We should not have them? And if we don't have safe injection sites, what should be done with the people who, like you touched on earlier, just down Kensington and other places, just getting high in broad daylight, using drugs?
Right. So I'm against heroin injection sites. They're actually not safe. I had an open mind. I, as a council person, did the first resolution to have hearings about the opioid crisis. It was an epidemic. What was odd about it was the fact that we usually think of drug-addicted persons as traumatized persons or persons who have experienced, bad things in their lives. The thing about the opioid and heroin epidemic was that a lot of the people overdosing and dying were nothing like that. They were successful, they were loved, they had bright futures, they were not kids who were, had any trauma or problems. They were popular, they were successful. There's all those things that made it very hard to understand, like why they were addicted to the degree that they were killing themselves. So in the process of looking at what the problems were, what I found during my task force investigation is there was a lot of bureaucracy. For example, if someone came in to seek help, they had to be fully addicted. If they weren't fully addicted, there was no help for them, so that's wrong. The next thing was if someone's fully addicted and they came in to seek help, they needed a valid driver's license. Well, when you're living on the streets for 6 months, you don't have, where's your wallet? Where's all that stuff? So they don't have it, so now they can't get help.
Right.
Then there was a rule they had to be like 3 days clean before, being able to get treatment. And so when they walk into a place on, let's say, a Thursday, Friday, they're closed Saturday, Sunday, they tell them to come back on Monday. Well, for a drug-addicted person, by the time Monday rolls around, that's a whole lifetime. So my thing is, you can't really help someone who doesn't want help in the world of trying to rehabilitate and save someone from the miseries of drug addiction. However, when they want help, you need to help them on the spot. And that's the problem. Our system does not allow us to help on the spot. So, for example, why do they need a valid driver's license? Did they come from Mars? No. Right. They came from someplace. They speak English. And even if they didn't, we can help them on the spot. We will get them a driver's license later. We need to not have these various type of rules. We need to have emergency. So if you come in on a Friday, we don't tell you come back on a Monday. We take you right then and there. If there isn't a bed open, we have to have places for them, right? But there isn't an overcrowding of spaces because, we have all these rules to deter people. The other thing is because it's so uneven, because we have made Philadelphia like a magnet for the drug addicted, and with that, we've made it a magnet for murder among drug dealers. We are overwhelmed. We can't help them. But where they are from, they have funds, they have beds, they have resources. And so, we've made the system very lopsided. Because it's so overwhelming and because people now very concerned about their children, and because the truth of the matter is we've seen a lot of white kids, get addicted and overdose, and they come from good families, well-educated people with money. They looked at this situation very differently than, for example, when we had a crack epidemic, right? When we had a crack epidemic, it was mostly black people and Hispanics, right? So it was not with the sensitivity of the addicted, but now with the sensitivity of the addicted, they put the addicted person's like their issues first, above the residents, above the children, above the community, above the drug dealers, above everybody. It's above everyone, and you can't do it that way. So they fabricated this idea that if you let them inject the heroin under supervision, that it's going to save their life. And that's not true, because when we look at the actual data from these supervised injection sites, we find that what they're saying is not true. Yes, there's an increase in crime. Yes, there's an increase in violence. There's an increase in overdoses. Sure, a lot of people go to the area of the safe injection site, like in Canada, not to enter the site, just because it's a drug-free zone. When I say drug-free, I don't mean like no drugs. I mean it's free drugs. You can prostitute, you can steal, you can get your drugs in, you can get high, you can shoot up in front of the police. Everything is okay there, and that has created like a mecca of drug addiction and abuse. So now with fentanyl, carfentanil, and tranq, this whole thing about a heroin injection site is really, really detrimental. So it's illegal. So now our mayor is trying to put like a number of these sites in neighborhoods in Philadelphia. Like whose neighborhood? Whose neighborhood is it going into? It's not going into our wealthy neighborhoods, that's for sure. So they'll say, well, that's not where the drug addicts are. Well, if you put a safe injection site there, they will be.
They're coming. Yeah.
They're coming. So no, you're going to put it in a poor neighborhood, which already has got too many problems. People being pushed out their homes, bad schools, no jobs. You know, the problem, they can't afford the groceries anymore. Crime, they can't step out their house. Now you're going to put this heroin injection site where there will be more murder, more misery, more addicted persons, more human trafficking and abusive people right there. Now, it's illegal. So because it's illegal, there's no way to stop it, right? In other words, when it was legal because of a court decision here in Philadelphia, I introduced a zoning bill that you'd have to have 80% of the community agree. Why? Because it's illegal. It's a criminal violation. So 80% of the community should agree. Yeah, if you want to put something illegal, we agree. But, you know, the court then found it to be illegal. That's why you can't do it. But now the mayor is talking to the U.S. Attorney's Office and our city prosecutor. He's not going to fight this. Now the federal prosecutors looks like they're not going to fight it, maybe, and the city wants to put these places in. So when they put a place in, there will be a limited number of people who go there for supervision when they inject themselves, but most of the people there will be just there because it's a hassle-free zone. Well, how that affects the community, it really is a negative impact. And one of the groups of people who really oppose heroin injection sites are recovering drug addicts. You know, because they do not want something like this near them. Every day they are fighting off the temptation to go back to drugs. They're fighting off the desire to fail, to pity themselves, and to get high again, right? And this going on and off of drugs is also one of the reasons why we have overdoses. And then finally, like what I find to be very problematic to me is people do not fundamentally have an understanding of what it is to be that addicted. And I like to explain, and I'm always surprised that people don't understand this, but I'll explain it because I think people should understand. People don't just get high. Like, you know, just because, you know, $140 bag a day, $140 a day habit, right? 14 bags a day. You shoot up in the morning, you don't get high, you just maintain. You go through your routine, you get your money, you find your dealer, you do your thing, you do your drug. You maintain, you didn't get sick. The next day, you go through your routine, you get your stuff, you do it, okay, you didn't get sick. That night, you got burnt. Now you're desperate. You get some friends, you shoot up, okay, nothing. You go through this lifestyle, prostituting, doing all that stuff, living dangerously. One day you get lucky. You got some good stuff, you got some extra money, you get high. You actually are in heaven. And now someone wakes you up with Narcan. You are pissed. You were in that wonderful place and someone brought you out of it. They are not looking, you know, they're looking, they're chasing the dragon. And it's all about that moment, that time. And that's why when someone ODs, that is the best advertisement for that brand of heroin. That's the real deal. People want it. And then the drug dealers out there giving out free samples, free samples, free samples. You cannot sustain this type of thing. What you have to do, you have to limit it. You cannot make it easy. And what this city's done is made it easy. And the easier you make it, the more you will have. The more you have, the more overdoses, murders, people locked up, people being disabled, harmed, hurt, abused. You cannot let this thing fester. There's no good that comes from it.
Well, I appreciate your time today, David O. We look forward to you being the new mayor of Philadelphia in November. Anything else you want to say to the people before we wrap up? Anything you want to say? Anything, events you got going on? Anything that you want the people to know that they don't know about you?
Well, I do want to know this. Politics is a tricky thing. It's full of misinformation. People try to discourage you from having a better life. Politics is all about misinformation. The truth of the matter is this: the people have the power. They really do. Now, they don't always take it, but just because someone has millions and millions of dollars to put on television and tell you their name, that don't make them win an election. It never has. You got the power. Don't be discouraged. Don't let someone tell you what can and can't happen. Nobody knows what happens on election day. You go out and you vote. And there's a lot of people that are going to be voting for real change, not fake change, not the talk of change. But they want someone who is unconnected to this system, who has got no ties to special interests, who has a history of disruption, and that's me. I will go in, I will start the change. Maybe I won't get reelected. I have no idea, not because I did a bad job, just the nature of politics. But once in, the sledgehammer comes out, the chisel comes out, we start making changes. And that's how this goes. Once you start the ball rolling, you can make those changes. And those are the obvious changes that people want. And you'll see it for yourself.
Well, you heard it here first. David O is running for mayor, so make sure y'all get out and vote May 16th and also again on November the 7th. Thank you once again for your time. This is my Ikey Raw, man of the people.
Thank you.